Bon matin, Tachkiwao. Good morning, everyone. Hello. James Lavely Dishnakashun. My name is James Lavely, and it's an honor to be here as your Master of Ceremonies for today's for the second annual National Indigenous Peoples Day, hosted by the Canada Sports Hall of Fame and the Calgary Public Library. The steering committee, chaired by a member of the Blood Tribe, Kainai Nation, Dr. Maurice Manyfingers, has been overseeing the planning of today's activities alongside the steering committee members for the past 10 months. Unfortunately, Dr. Manyfingers could not join us today, but he provided me with the following message to share with you. Okay. Each June, we celebrate National Indigenous Peoples History Month to recognize the contributions of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples to Canada. On June 21st, 1996, National Indigenous Peoples Day was proclaimed by the Governor-General Romeo Leblanc. This date was chosen for many reasons, including the significance of the summer solstice to Indigenous peoples and the fact that it is a day on which Indigenous peoples and communities celebrate their cultures, languages, traditions, and histories. Under the United Nations Declarations of Human Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP, Canada supports and affirms that Indigenous peoples are equal to all other peoples, while recognizing that the right of all peoples to be different, to consider themselves different, and to be respected as such. Canada affirms that peoples contribute to the diversity and richness of civilizations and cultures, which constitutes the common heritage of humankind. We look forward to celebrating and acknowledging the contributions of Indigenous peoples with our friends, neighbors, and partners, including the Canada Sports Hall of Fame and the Calgary Public Library on June 21st, 2023. Enjoy. Kind regards, Dr. Maurice Manyfingers, the chair of the National Indigenous Peoples Day Planning Committee for the Canada Sports Hall of Fame, and the Director of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation at Bow Valley College. So I would like to thank the Calgary Public Library for being a major partner in the planning of today's event, and a huge thank you to the Government of Canada, Black Diamond Group, Secure Energy for helping us sponsor today's activities. We have many special guests in attendance today, including the Honorable Louis E. Mitchell, former Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, Mr. Cardinal, the Vice President of the Métis Nation of Alberta, plus 310 students from various schools in Calgary and the surrounding areas. We also have over 10,000 visitors and guests watching on the live stream for this morning's presentation. So it's my pleasure to announce Kent, a young man who's a Blackfoot ceremonialist, who will be blessing our National Indigenous Peoples Day and all those present. Kent is from Siksika First Nation and is a part of the Blackfoot Crossing drumming group.
Hokia nixo goa hokia noko sika gioki gitakanek some chimpoan hoka Keynote. Ni stonna go kai chipamich kitopia hokinitum to sixaka. Just to explain a bit about our blessings as Blackfoot people. Dani Kidnan, our older people, they tell us every time an individual is asked to say a blessing, we are rekindling that unique kinship we have with this place. Our people going way back to the beginning of time for Siksika, we have a relationship with the cosmos, the climate, birds, animals, land, everything around us. So when our people say blessings, we acknowledge our connection with everything around us. And I'll say the blessing in my language, the Blackfoot language. And I'll ask all of you to join in your own way, however you make that connection with that higher power. To have a good day. You know, these days are, every day is special. Not just one day out of a year. We cherish everything that we're given day by day by acknowledging what we're given. So, ayo napi na tus. Ayo ki pita ki kukumiki so mauka ki o ki koko siksa ki kakatu siksa ki piso achpachse piso hatis. Ayo nins te pat te pio pika ki o ki denk katsma ka ki noka kiskanot ni o ka ki ayo na tomo pistan ni o ka ki ka po machkek sa ko ki aga mianis te pik siksa ka ki o ki noks pomo ki nanan noka ksis te koi ka ki amo. It's a stop exan oxis koika kiagoxnimo kaki. Agane nitsitapi koana kaki hannom sixexax koikaki. Ayo ninstapata pio pikaki o kisochtaka kaki amo stop exa kaki axnimo kaki. Otapi sinokaki sixegate sitapio kaki. Nitsitapi koana kaki. Ayo na to sininis te pata pio pika ki o ki nokse ki mato ki ta ki nokka ksis te koika ki. O ki nekse is te me ksa ka ki to pio ka ki so ki na kio pio ka ki. E ta me sakso ka ki hai so ki na kio pio ka ki ta ma aks kakao po ka ki ukuna nis ta ki. Ayo ninis te pata pio pika ki o ki nokse ki mato ki na nox pommo ki nanan nohka ksis te koikaki. Ok kanai suka pioka ki an nohka ksis te koikaki. O ki nis te wats man ka ki na pius. Kachsa ta pio sinika ki ka motani sukuta pio sinika ki kebe bestoi ki pepe.
Marcy, thanks, Kent. I would now like to turn your attention to the screen as we listen to a land acknowledgement prepared by the Calgary Public Library.
With gratitude, mutual respect, and reciprocity, we acknowledge the ancestral home, culture, and oral teachings of the Treaty 7 signatories, which includes the Siksika Nation, Piikani Nation, Kaurna Nation, the Ayithka Stoney Nakoda Nation, consisting of the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Good Stoney bands, and the people of the Tsuut'ina Nation. We also recognize the Métis people of Alberta Region 3, who call Treaty 7 their home. At Calgary Public Library, we celebrate stories, the stories of community and the land we live on. We serve the community on Winchispa, Gotsissi, and Mokinstis, which describes the gathering place where the Bow and Elbow rivers meet. We respect all people who share, celebrate, and care for the Treaty 7 territory of Southern Alberta, and we honor the original caretakers of the land, who remind us of the ongoing histories that precede us. We recognize our shared responsibilities going forward to help bring everyone together on this journey of truth and reconciliation.
Right on, thank you. So now I have the pleasure of welcoming the Blackfoot Crossing drummers. The Blackfoot Crossing singers officially began as a group in 1980. Through the years, there have been many members, but the core members remain the same. BCS won the World Class Singing Championship in 1987 at the Gathering of Nations in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and many other championships and honors since. They have had the honor of singing for many chiefs, prime ministers, and other world leaders and dignitaries from Siksika to Hong Kong, China. I would now welcome them to the stage.
Just so you know, we have many different ways of honoring. And this song we're going to sing was made by a gentleman who took my drum group as his sons. And he made this song as they sang it for the opening ceremonies of the '88 Winter Olympics. And it was great to hear Blackfoot honor songs in our traditional land, honoring the world, the athletes who came into McMahon Stadium on that day in 1988. So we will sing that song to honor the athletes and thank Mr. Alwyn Morris for all the inspiration throughout the years for his accomplishments as an Indigenous athlete.
Thanks so much. And now we're going to be welcoming Sandra Lamouche to the stage. Sandra is a Nehiyaw Iskew Cree woman from Big Stone Cree Nation in northern Alberta and married a Pekini Nation into the Pekini Nation in southern Alberta as mother of 2 boys with braids. She has over 15 years of experience in 10 international styles of dance, including ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, modern, contemporary, hip-hop, and powwow styles, and the hoop dance. Wow. Please join me in welcoming Sandra Lamouche.
Hey,
Chi Marcy. Thank you, Sandra. Now, join me in welcoming the President and CEO of the Canada Sports Hall of Fame, Cheryl Bernard. Cheryl joined the Canada Sports Hall of Fame 5 years ago and has been instrumental in the transition of the organization to actively reach beyond their walls and into the classrooms and communities, reaching more Canadians than ever before. And most recently, ensuring the stories and lessons of the 14 Indigenous Hall of Famers, inductees into Canada's Sports Hall of Fame, are shared with the nation, advancing reconciliation through the lens of sport. Please welcome Cheryl.
Thank you so much, James. Oh, that's okay. Do we put that down here? So, that's all right. So before we start, I have to recognize the schools that are here today. You are amazing. I've never seen such a well-behaved group, and I'm going to ask you a favor. We have 10,000 youth streaming in today watching this live, and they couldn't be here like you can. So on the count of 3, can we give the loudest that you can do, welcome everyone, okay? 1, 2, 3, well. They will feel very welcome. Thank you all for doing that. Hall of Famer and Order of Sport recipient Alwyn Morris is a member of the Turtle Clan from the Mohawk Nation of Ganawage. What does it mean to go beyond the win? Well, to be inducted into Canada's Sports Hall of Fame and receive the Order of Sport, Canada's highest sporting honor, all the athletes, builders, and trailblazers need not to only be at the top of their sport or their field, but they also need to do good in their community. Whether that is creating foundations, building awareness, or fighting for equality, they all have that great in sport to doing good for community and doing good for this nation. So now we're going to learn a little bit more about Order of Sport recipient Alwyn Morris in this next video. Please enjoy.
Alwyn Morris, a member of the Turtle Clan from the Mohawk Nation of Kanawake, is one of the most influential Indigenous athletes of all time. Alwyn grew up under the strict guidance and mentorship of his grandparents. His relationship with his grandfather, Tom Morris, was very special, as he was Alwyn's role model and inspiration. Alwyn grew up playing sports, even though he was told he was too physically small to achieve success. After discovering canoe-kayak sprint, he fully dedicated himself to the sport, despite discouragement from others that his effort would amount to nothing. Through his grandfather's encouragement, Alwyn believed he could be a champion. Unfortunately, as Alwyn was preparing for Olympic competition, his grandfather passed away. Instead of this tragedy slowing him down, Alwyn pushed himself harder to achieve his Olympic dream. In the 1984 Olympic Games, Alwyn Morris and his partner Hugh Fisher won a gold medal in canoe-kayak sprint. As a touching tribute to his grandfather and his Mohawk heritage, Alwyn raised an eagle feather high in the air while receiving his medal on the podium. The minute I had it in my hand, I knew it fit what I was trying to achieve. It symbolized friendship and honor. Following his competitive career, Alwyn tirelessly advocates for Indigenous youth and communities. Seeking to create sports programs to empower Indigenous athletes and youth, Alwyn helped establish the Aboriginal Sports Circle in 1995. Alwyn Morris, building Canada through the transformative power of sport.
I don't know about you guys, but I've got shivers. That was amazing. And now I'm going to invite Alwyn up to the chairs over here, and we can begin the next part of our series here.
Hello, everyone. Before I start, it's tradition that I thank the traditional people of this territory for allowing me to be here today. It's a tradition that we all follow very carefully when we come into someone else's territory. So I'd just like to thank the traditional people of this territory for allowing me to be here. Secondly, today is a very special day. It's National Indigenous Day, but it's also the summer solstice. And if you don't mind, I'm going to sit down. And one of the things that has helped me understand things a little bit better is that the summer solstice, for me, is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's the day of the most daylight time, and the sun never goes down. And it allows us to reflect that there is a light at the end of the tunnel as an Indigenous person in this country. And for me, that's really, really important, because there were so many hurdles that are out there that prevented so many different people from achieving. And why I say that is that in 1984, when I won the Olympics, I wasn't the most talented athlete ever to come out of the Indigenous community. But the one thing that I was able to achieve was to understand that hard work, dedication, sacrifice were the cornerstones of being able to achieve. Now, it's really interesting, because I say those words, and at the same time, I could just say them. If I don't believe them, and if I don't act upon them, then I was never going to achieve. And so I thank my grandparents for teaching me that hard work does bring results. And it is something that I cherish to this day. And many people will say, well, you've won an Olympic gold medal. Well, yeah, but the gold medal was one day in my life. Only one day. It was the 10 years or 11 years of training, 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, that really made me who I am today. The gold medal was a piece of history. I'm a human being. I'm someone who's been able to achieve. And I'm very proud of that. I wouldn't change anything for the world. My clan is the Turtle Clan. And the Turtle Clan in my territory is something that is known as the Helper. And as a clan member of the Turtle Clan, I embraced my tradition of being a helper in my community. And when I say my community, I don't talk about just my home of Ganawage. I'm talking about my home globally. And it's really interesting that it dawned on me that, you know, I wasn't just a helper in Ganawage. I followed my social responsibility to be a helper globally throughout this country. And I know many of you may be not at that point in your lives, and maybe some of you are thinking about it. Truth and reconciliation is a two-way street. It's not just one way. We have a role, we as Indigenous people have a role in helping in the way in which to create truth and reconciliation. But the non-Indigenous communities themselves also have a role. So when I look at you and I think the 10,000 people who are out there listening today, I say, what is going to be your role? What's going to be your role? What traditional role are you going to pick up for yourselves to help make this country a better place to live for everyone? Recognizing the diversity of this country. Just look around at each other. We are so diverse, it's amazing. And we all bring something special. And as Indigenous people, we want to be able to do that with you. So with that, I wish you all well. Happy Indigenous Day. And please think about what your role in Canada will be in the future. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's already very inspiring. But now we're entering to our fireside chat. And so I have a few questions here for you. So you were called one of the most influential Indigenous athletes of all time. Called, I believe you still are, one of the most influential Indigenous athletes of all time, athletes, period. So after your Olympic gold medal performance in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, when you reflect on this experience now, especially on National Indigenous Peoples Day, what does this accomplishment mean to you, and what does it mean to your community? I think you already alluded to this pretty well, but do you have more thoughts?
Well, you know, you never start out to be who you become, and I certainly didn't either. You know, I always looked at becoming an athlete as something that I wanted to do all my life. And the fact that I was able to be successful and have certain doors open in order to create the right kinds of influence at many levels of government and at a community level, I think that's, again, it becomes the role I have to play in the sense that it was my role as in my tradition. And, you know, I think that if I've been able to help move forward in creating the right kind of environments for sport to be a vehicle for reconciliation, then perfect. But I'm a single person in the sense that I'm only one guy. That's why everybody here and everybody that's outside of this library need to play their role too. There's certainly more that can happen that is not Alwyn Morris based. It is all of our roles and it's all of our jobs to try to do that.
Yeah, I love that. And so on this kind of piece of, you know, playing a role and using sport as a vehicle for reconciliation, you know, we often talk in the sports world about there's being few Indigenous pieces within the mainstream sport pathway. So as we recognize truth and reconciliation as a tool for social development that can improve the health and wellness of individuals and communities, a byproduct of that creating new, more inclusive pathways for Indigenous athletes to pursue excellence in sport. How can sport do a better job at responding to the real needs and goals of Indigenous peoples?
That's a big question,
yeah,
isn't it?
It's kind of huge. Yeah, it's a mouthful too.
Well, I think the best way to explain this is Indigenous people had their own pathways in sport. We just saw someone to do a hoop dance. I mean, to me, that's an athlete. And I think that there are so many other pathways that are out there that Indigenous people are participating in. And it may be a little different than the mainstream sports system as a whole, but eventually they do and will come together. The issue is about recognizing that there are different pathways in which to achieve and get to the podium. And we have to respect that. from holistic views of coaching to even nutrition. I mean, training, yes, training is training. We all got to train. We all have to work very, very hard. But there are other avenues and pathways that can facilitate ways in which for Indigenous people to become more and more involved and search for the podium as I did.
Yeah, for sure. And you touched a bit about like a holistic model of training. Do you want to explain, or training of sport? Do you want to explain a bit what that means to you?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I'm gonna tell a story, and I know it's not probably going to fit perfectly, but I think what I think it does is it really helps us understand a little better. Many, many years ago, I came across a young person, and this young person got drafted to play hockey. And this person was also a very traditional person, and had a long braid as part of his tradition. And unfortunately, in the Canadian sports system at the time, this individual went through a hazing. And that hazing is where his braid was cut off. And that individual, with probably unbelievable potential, never went back to sport. So when you talk about holistic, you've got to try to pursue and understand that people are coming into sport from so many different viewpoints and cultural identities. And when they come into the sport, they can be coming at it from a very traditional standpoint, meaning they are not necessarily coming at from the mainstream, which is they've grew up in a very, very different hockey room or sport room. It doesn't matter what sport it was. And they've got to understand the respect that's necessary. And that's what I bring forward in terms of understanding of the holistic approach. The holistic approach is something that is recognizing the differences of individuals who are participating in sport because they're coming from it from a very different perspective.
Absolutely. That's a very powerful story. Yeah, so why, we're going to change gears here a bit. Why do you think it's important from a young age that active living is equally valued and promoted for all children? Likewise, why is it integral for people of all ages to stay physically active in their lives?
Okay, here we go. I want everybody to stand up. Okay. Hey, give me a second here. Okay, so a lot of us consider ourselves to be maybe very active, and they're athletes. And I was asked many, many times, what did it feel like when you were competing in racing? And I said, here's what we're going to do. We got to watch. You got to watch? Yep. You got a stopwatch on it? Yep, we can do that. Okay, here we go. So this is very simple. And everybody who's streaming, you got to get up off your butts as well. And stand up. Okay, so my 1,000-meter race was 3 minutes and 24 seconds. That's not that long, is it? You can do something for 3 minutes and 24 seconds, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to raise our hand like this. All right. We're going to do a very, very simple exercise to indicate and to show what it feels like to do something as strenuous as possible for 3 minutes and 24 seconds. And if you can't finish, that's okay. But I want you to attempt it. You got to try. All right, here we go. The exercise is this. Open your hand, close your hand, open your hand. Simple exercise, right? Very simple. All right. Ready, set, go. Fast as you can. Come on. Keep going. Keep going. Come on. Keep going. Fast. You're doing it fast, right? We got to go fast. We got to go fast. How much time is that?
15 seconds.
That's 15 seconds. Come on. You got to go. You got to go. Come on. We can do this, right? Everybody can do this, right? Yes, we can. Keep going. How long is that? 30 seconds. Oh, yeah, we're going. We're going. Oh, guess what? We just hit the 100-meter mark. We got another 900 meters to go. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Let's keep going. Keep going. We got to go fast. Remember, this is the Olympics. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing. How long we got now? 1 minute. We got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Come on, we can do this. We can do this. Come on, we can do this. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. We can. We can do this. Come on. I know all you guys are strong. Come on, you're strong. You go. What do we got? What do we got? A minute 30. We're halfway there almost. Keep her going. Keep her going. Come on. Come on. We can't stop. We're in the race. We can't stop. We can't stop. This is coming. This is coming. What are we looking at? Almost 2 minutes. We got a minute and 30 seconds. That's it. We're more than halfway there. We're more than halfway there. We're more than halfway. Now it's time to dig in. It's time to dig. Come on, dig. Dig that strength you got inside of you. Dig for it. Dig for it. Dig for it. You can do this. You can do this. Keep her going. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there. Keep her going. Keep her going. Oh, that's getting a little painful now, isn't it? Oh, it's hurting. It's hurting. It's time to get strong now. It's time to get strong. What are we looking at? 1 minute left. Time to finish. Now we're going. Now we're going faster, faster. Come on, make it go. Make her go. Make her go. Keep her going. Come on, we can do this. We're less than a minute. We're at 40 seconds. 24 seconds left. Come on, let's go. Faster, faster. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Come on. Come on. We're there. We're there. We're there. Where are we going? Where are we going? 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Keep her head. Keep it going. 5 seconds. We're done.
Wow. Okay. As a paddler myself, I can attest that is exactly how painful 1,000 meters feels. Thank you, Alwyn.
Now, everybody have fun. Shake your arm, it'll all go away.
That's fantastic.
So going to your question, that's why we have to be active all our lives.
Exactly. Well, I saw everyone did a really good job. I was watching. That was very good. Great. Well, thank you for that. And we're going to go back to another question here. So to reach our greatest potential, we all need a support network to help us get there, who are good role models and supportive people in our life. Who are good role models and supportive people in your life who helped you achieve greatness in sport?
Well, I think that everybody knows. My grandparents were, and my grandfather, more importantly, was probably the most influential. It's not to say my grandmother wasn't influential, but she was influential from a very different perspective. Maybe she provided me with humility that is necessary in everybody to grow up. And so she brought a different set of values. But from a sporting perspective, my grandfather was a very active individual in sport. My uncle became a regional Tom Allen Board Award winner back in the 60s. And so I'd say he was probably, or they combined were probably the most influential people in my life to really sort of show me the way in which I had to conduct myself and how I had to train and focus in on what I had to do in order to be successful. Further to that, I ran into some very interesting people at one point in time in my life that threw more barriers towards me being getting out there and trying to achieve. And I was fortunate enough to have a coach who said, that's the negative part, that you're focused on trying to achieve, and I'm there to help you get to that point. So I had a coach who did that very early on in my life, and subsequent to that, I had other coaches who certainly promoted and supported me in terms of the things that that when I was down, they picked me up. And if I can use an example, is that I trained in British Columbia for most of my career. And for those people who know the BC weather, specifically more Vancouver, knows that especially in the fall, it rains basically every day. And we were training every day, twice on the water, and we were also outside doing outside activities, whether it would be running or something else. And I think I went through about, I'm going to say almost 30 days of getting soaking wet 3 times a day. And one morning I woke up and we were supposed to go for a morning run, and it was pouring rain. It was pouring rain. And I just said, I was living in a house with a number of other athletes, and the coach said, it's time to go. And I said, listen, I'm done. It's raining. I'm tired. I don't want to go. And the coach turned around and he went and he walked out. And I could hear everybody downstairs getting ready, to go for the run. And then he came back up again. And he said to me, he says, you're coming, right? And I said, no, I don't think so. I don't want to go. And he's just said a couple things to me. He said, think about this. Do you think your competition is whining and worried about the weather today? Because if you think that, you think that they're just going to do what you want to do, which is lay in bed, then you're strongly mistaken. He went back downstairs, and I got out of bed. And I went for my run and got completely soaking wet again. But more importantly, I think he taught me a lesson that basically says, if you're going to achieve, you've got to go through absolute hell some days. And you've just got to endure it and move to the next steps.
I love that. And so now that you're beyond sport, beyond competition, and you're a role model for many other people, what are some of the things that you try to do, or you could even, for our audience, what things people can do to be that supportive person that can help someone through a tough time, or to do that last interval, or to get out and do that wet run that no one really wants to do? What are some of the things that you've learned that you might have shared about being that role?
Well, that's interesting. And I think that it's always about giving back. It's always about giving back what you learned, and the fact that I was able to do that and give back at so many different levels. I think that again, it goes back to what I said right at the very beginning. That was my role, and that is my role. And whether it's been tradition or in the society as a whole in Canada, that was my role. I mean, I didn't just stay in terms of promoting and advocating on behalf of sport. I mean, I've embraced, for those of you who may know or may not know, Terry Fox, the late Terry Fox, who was trying to run across this country, and he had cancer. And cancer is a horrible disease. So I embraced working with the Terry Fox group in Montreal, and we raised money together. And I was just at a recent event on Monday trying to raise some money for the Terry Fox Fund to fight cancer. So I think that, again, it's just a matter of giving back and understanding that, you know, you have a role to play. And if you understand you have a role to play in this country, then things are easy. And you just promote that role.
Yeah, that's great. I think for like a lot of our audience today is youth. And one of the things I've certainly noticed with youth is like sometimes we feel like we need permission to go out and do things. What I'm hearing from you is that, you know, as citizens of the world, as wherever that comes from, that we can just go and do stuff. We can go and help people. We can go and push for greatness and fill whatever role that we need to fill in our community. And I really love that. It's a great piece. So you touched a bit about the values you learn through sport, and especially about training for the Olympic Games and the world of sport more broadly. Can you talk about tackling obstacles that might have come into your life outside of competition or through competitions? You've touched a bit about this, but for our young audience, what really drove you to overcome any obstacles you faced?
Yeah, I think obstacles are manyfold. I don't think you can just say that there's one kind of obstacle, because there are several different types of obstacles. One of the obstacles is yourself. You're your obstacle to yourself. If you let yourself down, then you're the obstacle. Especially if you have people behind you supporting you, you could be the first obstacle that you have. There are other differences, unfortunately, in this country, and they're racial. And that's an obstacle, and that's reality, and that's what we're trying to break down here today. We're trying to break those things down. Those are barriers that prevent us from moving. I alluded to other barriers where people come from a very traditional standpoint or have a different viewpoint of how they fit within the scope of your team in terms of their culture. Well, that in itself sometimes becomes a barrier because the other side doesn't want to recognize that. And you got to break that barrier down. You know, we can talk about the other issues related to sport as sport becomes more and more expensive. Sport is becoming more and more expensive in this country, and there's no way around that. And that is a reality that we need to change. And we need to find a way in which to make sports accessible for everybody. Whether you know, right now, women are and girls are way underrepresented in this country. Disabled people are way underrepresented in this country in terms of sport. We got to find better ways in which to include them and help break down some of those other barriers that are systemic in nature.
Great. So a lot of this you were kind of talking about earlier. You're just one man, one great man, but one man. And it's up to all of us to contribute and be a part of this, but be a part of this team. And so you came from mostly an individual sport. I mean, you were in a team boat, but primarily individual. How is teamwork and work into your philosophy that you've been sharing today, and how can we be better team members?
My grandfather said something to me many years ago, and he said, do you respect the person that you're going to race against, meaning your competition? Yes or no? And I wasn't sure what to answer him. And I learned from experience that the answer is yes. You better respect your competition. And you better respect the fact that if you're in a team boat, that person that's with you, and I had my partner, I had to respect everything about him. You know, I had to feel so comfortable that I didn't even have a doubt in my mind how hard he was going to push on any given competition. I had to understand that my competition trained just as hard as I did. I had to understand that on any given day, they could beat me. And the only thing that was going to change that whole perspective was how I viewed it and how strong I was going to be mentally in order to endure the pain that we all just finished going through. So that's really that was probably the most important thing that I've learned in terms of respect and understanding respect for the people you're competing with and competing against.
Great. And I feel like a lot of people have different ideas of what respect means to themselves. Do you want to elaborate a bit on what respect means to you?
Well, I mean, I think I alluded to it. I knew that my partner was not going to let me down. I knew it, and he knew that I would never let him down. There was no separation whatsoever in terms of what we wanted to achieve together. There was none. And that's how I view what respect is in terms of the athlete. Understanding what that individual is bringing to the table and understand that if they're with you, they're 100% with you.
Great. And so when you started with your team boat partner, I'm sure you had to build that respect, a mutual respect. What was that process like?
Actually, the process started way before that. When I first moved out of Ganawage to go to train in British Columbia, I had nowhere to stay. And my partner, Hugh, was the fastest senior paddler in Canada at the time. I was a junior. And he said to me, you don't have to worry about where you're going to stay. You're staying with me in my house with my mother and my brother. He opened the door. And he said, you don't have to worry about anything. There's a bed for you, and there's meals on the table. So I think that the fact that we weren't just athletes training, trying to get to the Olympic level, but more importantly, I knew that this individual was looking out for me. So I think that it started long before we became partners, because we weren't. I was racing singles. He was racing doubles with another guy. And it became a happenstance situation. It was never planned. It was happenstance. In other words, basically, his partner got sick. I got in the boat, and we started winning. And that was the beginning and how things evolved. And again, going to the respect, it was already there. And understanding that, you know, from a perspective, he could come to my house, or my grandparents' house, at any time and have a meal and stay, and I could do the same. And so that really helped bond our relationship.
Yeah, that's great. There's so much that goes into every relationship that's far beyond if you're just classmates or just teammates that really makes it more impactful. So you once said, if you have it in you to dream, you have it in you to succeed. What advice would you give to kids who feel like they don't belong and are often told they can't do something?
Well, I think that, as the video said, you could feel that you're shunned and that you're not able to participate. And I say to that, you're wrong. Everybody in this room dreams about something they would like to do. Everybody does. There's not one single person in this room and out there who have not dreamt about being somebody else, something extraordinary. And so for me, when I said that, it came back to resonate with my own self that I always had a dream about wanting to go to the Olympics. I always did. I wasn't sure what it was going to be in. I mean, we had two sports in our community. We had hockey and lacrosse. Canoeing wasn't even there. And the only reason why canoeing came to the community was because lacrosse stopped. So I had nothing else to do. So I went down to paddle. And if anybody says, well, you're going to be an Olympic athlete or a paddler because you're an Indigenous person, well, I will tell you this. My first race I was ever in, I fell in the water in the middle of the race. So the only thing that kept me going was I wanted to do something, and I wanted to keep going. And it wasn't until the third year that I competed when I finally found myself on the podium at a local event. So I say to those people, if you don't feel, well, I want you to think about this. You dream every day. And not only do you dream, but you pretend in your mind about being that special person you are. And all you need to do is be active in pursuing it. And don't give up.
Very wise words. We're going to go into some questions soon from the audience, but I was wondering before we get into that, is there other things that you feel like you want to share? You've been giving such good nuggets of information for everyone. It's just I'm on the edge of my seat here. So
No, go ahead. I think we got an anxious crowd here, and we should just keep going.
sounds great. So I'm going to find my other notes here. I don't need this. I do need this. That's great. So we're not done with Alwyn yet. He's going to still sit up there for now. But I'm gonna ask. So we have so many great students in the audience today who are coming from 5 different schools and have been asked to prepare some questions for Alwyn to answer. We have chosen 2 students in attendance who. So we're going to ask, please, the student from Delta West Academy to come forward and ask your question.
Hi. So if you could go back and replay any moment in your life, what would that be?
Wow. I don't know if I would replay any of those pieces. I'll tell you something kind of silly, but probably the thing that I would like to have done differently was when I had my first kiss.
Oh,
Why is that, Alwyn?
Well, I was so scared that I didn't know what I was doing. But But I think in terms of your question, I'm not sure I would change anything, and it's only one reason, and that is I think every experience that I went through helped me become the person I am today. It's so easy to live in the past and or try to change something, but you can't. You need to find a way in which, if you've made a mistake, don't make it again.
Yeah.
If you found yourself in a really bad position, don't do that again. So, and I'm no different than anybody else. I made mistakes, but I couldn't change those mistakes. I could learn from them, and I could talk to people about them. And I think that's really important, especially if you've got good mentors around you. And I think I had some of the best. And learning from that is really the key of why I say what I did. Okay?
Thank you.
Right on. We almost stumped him there. That was the first one that he had to think a bit. But so now we're going to have our second question from Ahmadiyya Muslim School. If you can please bring your student, come forward and ask your question to Alwyn. Right here. Do you need your paper or do you remember your question?
Hi, my name is Faria. I'm from Ahmadiyya Muslim School. My question is, do you have any advice for when we fail or make mistakes?
Well, I think I almost just covered that. If you fail and make mistakes, that's normal. Don't let anybody consider thinking that making a mistake is abnormal. We all make them. We all make mistakes. And the thing we have to do is that when we make a mistake, we acknowledge it and we prevent from it happening again. And if it's something that is more drastic and you make a mistake, then you go to the good people around you to help resolve that mistake.
Thank you.
Thank you for such amazing questions. And thank you so much, Alwyn, for sharing your story with us today. So let's give him a huge round of applause, please.
Thank you.
So we are a bit ahead of schedule, and I'm going to go a bit off script here. And I'm going to ask if there's any questions that someone's burning to ask, to raise your hand and let me know. Okay, I saw one way up there. Do you want to come down and ask the question?
Have you ever had any times in your life where you felt like you were just going to give up? Like you didn't feel like you could achieve anything, where you just felt like you were going to give up?
Yes. I mean, and again, it's trial and error, right? Because when you first get involved in trying to understand what training is all about, you don't know anything. You really don't. I mean, you can have the best people in front of you saying, this is what it takes to train. But if you haven't experienced it, you don't know. And so, yeah, we did a little exercise here. And it hurt. It hurt. And if you don't understand that training doesn't hurt, then you're mistaken. And when I first got involved with trying to achieve and trying to train, I had no clue. I had no clue that it was going to hurt me every day, 3 times a day or 4 times a day. It was going to hurt. And the race was going to hurt more. But that's, again, when you first start, you don't understand that. And as you progress through the training, you become more and more aware of what it takes, and you are able to endure it mentally, because there's a lot is where it changes for you, because all of us can train at a certain level. We all can. It's up in our mind that stops us. We're the controller. Remember I said earlier, one of the biggest obstacles are ourselves, because we're the ones who put sometimes the biggest barriers in front of ourselves. And the biggest barriers we put in front of ourselves sometimes, and in this case, it's being able to endure the fact that it's going to hurt. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough on a daily basis. And that I wasn't ready at the front end to understand properly. And again, without having people behind me and saying, well, yeah, of course it's going to hurt. It's normal. Only at that point did I have become to understand that I had to accept that and move through it. So, yeah, but again, it was only myself putting the barrier. Good question.
Okay, so I think, are you pointing camo shirt? Yeah. Okay, I'll go.
That young gentleman there with the red shirt on.
The red shirt? Okay.
The
right
red
on.
shirt, yeah, he was up there.
I'm just going to pass you the mic so we don't have to run down here.
So, in this world, what would have you changed to get to this point here?
In the world, what I would have changed to get to this point?
Yeah.
If I didn't compete?
In just general.
In general.
Yeah.
Well, I think that coming to understand my role in my traditional role as the helper, I think that is something I would have probably done anyway, because I recognize that before I even became interested in competing at a high level. So I would have probably done something very different in terms of what I absorbed as becoming my social responsibility and my role in society. I think I would have probably done very different things in order to get to this place. Okay?
Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, Alwyn, do you want to pick one more? I think we have time for one more, and I'll let you go.
Let's go way at the back.
Okay.
Way at the back.
Okay, I'm running to you. This is part of physical activity. Let's go, go, go.
What did you, wait, hold up, give me a second.
No worries, keep going.
At any point in your career, did you, like, lose confidence?
Well, it's an interest. I wouldn't necessarily say I lose confidence, because I would say there was something else that happened 4 years earlier to Los Angeles. And I think the best way I would have put it is I lost faith. And what do I mean by that? Well, in 1980, and for those of you who are going to go look this up, which you're all going to do, I know it, because all your teachers are going to say, you got to go look at this. And in 1980, Canada boycotted the Olympics because the Russians invaded Afghanistan, and the United States decided it was going to boycott the Russian Olympics, and Canada followed suit. And we were training in Southern California, and we were training with some athletes from the American national team. And the very when this sort of started to evolve, the guys we were training with from the United States learned that they were boycotting. And Canada hadn't made a decision at that point. And about 3 to 4 days later, Canada decided to boycott the Olympics. And I was crushed. And so was my partner. And so were all the other people that we were training with from Canada. And that's what I mean lose faith, because as an athlete, you want to make sure, or you would like to think, that politics would never interfere in a celebration. And in this case, it did. And it happened again. And I guess that's more, not confidence, but faith that other people had a chance, and maybe, and I am not going to say that they had a right, because in my view, they didn't have a right to do that. They had an occasion to involve politically in a celebration of the world. And to me, I lost faith and understood for the first time that somebody else could predetermine whether or not I was able to compete. So I think that's probably more the accurate word as opposed to confidence. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I think that might be all the time we have for questions, but I appreciate all the ones that raised your hands. I know I would have loved to got to more, and I appreciate Alwyn for making me get some exercise today and get up those stairs. But so definitely another round of applause for the wonderful Alwyn Morris and all of the great words he shared.
And I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out today. This has been a great experience for me as well. Listen, let's make a change. Let's all start. Thank you very much. Now I'll go. Say.
Awesome. Thank you, Alwyn. So now we have a bit of time, but we're hoping that the students will be directed to their designated locations in the library to eat your lunch, and we'll commence the assigned activities promptly at noon. The teachers have been given a schedule of activities that will start at noon sharp and run into 2 to 2:30, depending on your school. And each group has been assigned a library volunteer to assist you to each activity. So thank you so much for coming to this morning, and we hope you enjoy your afternoon. Thank you. Merci. Hope that was okay. That's how we work, right? Oh, I didn't give people their stuff. Right, sorry. I'm so sorry about that.